Hello and welcome. How are you doing today? My name is Lynn, and today I have a flip video of the Spellbinders club kits that I get. Here's a quick recap of the cards that I'll be making, and as per usual for my flip videos, I'll be making at least one flat, one layered, one interactive, and one pop-up card. And in this video, I'm actually going to make two layered cards. One is the shaped card. I'll also be timestamping this video, so if you see one of these cards and you want to, and you only have time to see how I make one of them, you can go ahead and flip directly to that section of this video. So without further ado, let's make these. Okay, we're gonna get started with the flat card. So I have already made another card, and it was using the Glimmer of the Month. And when I get my kits, what I'll often do is just glimmer everything and have it ready. So I don't actually show the glimmering in this video, but in that set, with the Glimmer Club this month, you get some coordinating dies to cut out your glimmered design. And one of them is this sort of scalloped shape heart. And I like to just glimmer onto A2 size panels. And I don't know what I'm going to do with them, so that's why I just do it right in the middle of the panel. And if I want to use the panel as is or die cut it later, I have those options. And in that case, you'll see that card later, I did die cut out that glimmered element. And so what I did was I used the panel as a stencil so that I could stencil this little scalloped heart. And then I just took one of the stamps from the clear Stampin' Die of the Month. Fits perfectly inside here. So it's a really nice match, actually. So that's a die from the Glimmer of the Month that has that scalloped edge heart design. And it's the heart stamp, the smaller of the two heart stamps from the clear Stampin' Die of the Month. And if you do get the clear stamp of the month, the option that comes with the coordinating dies, there is a die that will cut out, or two dies I should say, that will cut out your two heart designs, as well as the letters that I'm stamping out now. But with the two heart designs, it's a plain straight edge. So there's a little bit of a difference, and if you wanted, and you did get both the Glimmer and the clear Stampin' Die of the Month, you could, because the die that comes in the clear Stampin' Die of the Month kit is a smaller heart than the scalloped edge die from the Glimmer of the Month, you could die cut both and layer them too if you wanted to add some additional kind of layers, mats and layers to your die cut element. So it's nice because hearts aren't always sort of the same, because you could have some really, I think they're called the more primitive heart designs that are a little bit more elongated versus ones like these that are more full. So it's really nice that they've designed these so that they actually can be kind of mixed and matched together. With the love sentiment, I love that they are individual letters so that you can actually place these however you want. So you could do it in a square, you could have it running left to right, top to bottom. You just have a little bit more versatility that way. And also, if you wanted, you could use the individual letters and kind of stamp out a different phrase even, if you wanted. And what I am doing is I'm using my acrylic blocks sort of as a little paint palette, and I'm using this exact same colors that I stamped the heart and the sentiment above, which reads, "To my forever person." And one of them is a Distress Oxide ink. The other is a dye-based ink. But they are both, you can mix them both with a little bit of water and just paint with them, like I'm doing here. So all I'm doing is just painting in the flowers that are a part of the letters, the design of the letters. So there's some foliage, there's some flowers of a mixed variety. And I want to keep everything in the same color palette. So that's why I'm not coloring in the leaves. So I'm just leaving this a very pinky card for Valentine's Day. And I kind of like the monochromatic look, and I also like having it so that it's not fully colored in. And in keeping with the monochromatic look, I didn't know for certain if I had exact solid color cardstock to match. So all I'm doing is I just swiped a bit of ink across my white cardstock so that I have some nice solid color, and I'm just trying out which color I like better for my sentiment banner. And the sentiment is actually also from the Glimmer of the Month, which is kind of cool because we got a neat variety this month, which I really love. So I'm using just some silver DMC embroidery thread here. I love this. Kim Creates got me onto these embroidery floss threads, and they are fantastic. But as I was saying, the Glimmer of the Month is really fantastic because we got some glimmer designs in some florals and some hearts and some sentiments. And as well, we got a die plate, this wavy banner that you can use to die cut out your glimmered sentiment, which also is in a matching kind of curve as the banner is. But then as well, there's a sentiment debossing plate, which is what I'm using here. It's sending hugs. So that's actually really pretty cool how much we got in the Glimmer of the Month. There were even some dies, little floral dies that coordinate with the florals in the Glimmer design, but aren't designed to actually die cut out a glimmered element. So really nice collection. So that finishes up my flat card. I did use a little bit of foam under my Sending Hugs sentiment banner, but it's my low profile foam. It's only 1 millimeter thick. So since I was working directly on my card base, I'm still considering that a pretty flat card. Okay, so now on to my first of 2 layered cards. This is that same silver thread that I used on my previous card. I love this embroidery thread. It's metallic. They have all sorts of metallics, and it's thin. It drapes beautifully and has a lot of beautiful shine, and I love it. I really, really love it. And I've never done a stitching die with it, because you know how normally it's recommended to use maybe a embroidery floss that has like 6 threads, and then you would just separate it and have and then stitch with 3 threads. Well, this floss is so thin, and I think it only comes with, I think there's only like 3 threads in this, so it's thinner than your normal embroidery floss. And it's fantastic. It stitches up beautifully. And what I'm doing is I'm actually using one of those mini glue dots to hold my loose ends of thread on the back. And I'm placing additional mini glue dots just around where I'm stitching to tack the threads down as I stitch as well. That helps to kind of keep everything nice and tight, and it keeps the back kind of tidy too. And I prefer to, if I can't jump over to the next sort of stitching section easily without, running the thread behind a bunch of other holes, I prefer to just tack the end down and then snip it off and start in the new location. But the stitching for this design is really, really easy, and it's the same with, I think, most, if not all, of the Spellbinders stitching dies, where it's sort of just that pinwheel, kind of the tire spokes kind of stitching. You just you're always stitching back into the center and creating that sort of starburst pattern. And this card is going to look so different from all of my other cards because I'm not using any pink. I figure this is a nice design for maybe the folks in your life who aren't a big fan of pink. Not everybody is, and I think we send Valentine's Day cards to folks who have a lot of different favorite color preferences. So, and you may or may not have noticed, I try not to say cards that are good for guys, cards that are good for women versus men, because we all have different preferences. Blue is my favorite color, so it's not that a blue and silver and black card like this one would only be something that men would enjoy. And I know plenty of men who wear pink and purples, so color is such a personal preference. It really has nothing to do with gender. So that's why I always try to phrase things that way. Okay, so then moving on to my second layered card, I'm using this huge heart die. It's fantastic. This is from the large die of the month, and I'm going to create a shaped card. I don't often do this, but this heart die is really, really a nice size. So rather than try to fit it onto a USA 2 size card or make a 5x7 card, I thought it would be big enough to actually make a statement on its own. So all I did was, this is 120-pound heavyweight cardstock. I folded it about an inch section on one end. And when I positioned my die, I just made sure that part of the cutting lines at the very top are extend beyond that folded edge. So that's going to give me a little bit of a glue tab. And that is what I will attach the front of the card to. And I'll die cut the front of the card from some Spellbinders solid color cardstock. I'm a big fan of the Spellbinders cardstock. I just recently picked up, I think it was basically all the colors that were in stock. Maybe not all of them. Not the neutral, not the basic white and black, because I have a lot of that, but all of the colored ones I think I picked up. And what I love about it is that it is it's a nice weight. It's 100-pound cover. And that's really great because that's the weight of cardstock that I glimmer with. And I've had really good luck glimmering onto the Spellbinders solid color cardstock. My normal solid color cardstock is 65 pound. And I sometimes get a good glimmer, sometimes not so much. But with the heavier weight Spellbinders cardstock, more often than not, I would say most of the time, I get a good, and I haven't done it a ton, so I still, am experimenting, but so far I've had better results, let's put it that way, than when I use my thinner cardstock. And so I like it for that. I also like it because it's sort of the, I generally use 120-pound weight cover heavyweight cardstock for my card bases, but I do think 100-pound works pretty well too. So I like having this heavier weight cardstock because now I can do solid color card bases. So that's never been an option that I wanted to take before, because I only had 65-pound, maybe 80-pound cardstock, colored cardstock, and I kind of feel like, especially with the cards that I tend to make, like interactive cards, pop-up cards, your thinner, lighter weight cardstocks can't really hold up to that, but 100-pound I think can. And so I've been making more colored cardstock card bases recently, so love that. Now what I'm doing here is there's 2 floral clusters that come in the large die of the month, and I'm trimming this one down. So really these designs are very snippable, so so you can kind of trim them and use them however you like. I've used the largest die and cut that out of silver glitter cardstock. And then you get individual dies to layer your floral elements on top. So if you wanted to do this in a more realistic color scheme, you might choose to die cut out of green with those 2 larger floral sprays dies. And then as you layer your flowers on top, the green leaves will still show through. I'm going for something a little bit more abstract, so I've chosen silver glitter as my base. I'm using vellum as my kind of the underneath layer, the first layer on the flowers. And that just helps to kind of dull back the glitter a little bit. So, and then I'm going to use some solid color cardstock for the top layer. I also have some pink glitter cardstock for some additional layers as well. And I just took a little emery board and just sanded off some rough edges that I still had after die cutting. And so if you ever get that with a trimmer or with cutting your dies, you can always just take an emery board and sand off those edges and smooth them out a little bit. And I'm gonna start to assemble now. So I've got my the large floral spray, the one that I trimmed down a little bit and snipped into. So I have those pieces down. With vellum, it can be a little bit tricky because when you apply glue, you can kind of see that glue through the vellum. So here I've put the solid color cardstock on top first. And then that allowed me to see where I can put glue. With some of these other flowers, I know where the additional layers are going to be, so I can just put glue right down on top of the glitter. And all of this is kind of tricky gluing, because when you glue onto glitter, you do need to give it a little bit of time also for your glue to grab. And then with vellum, as I mentioned, you can kind of see glue. So you want to just, if you want to try to hide that, you want to make sure that you're only placing glue onto your vellum or behind your vellum where you know you're going to cover it. So in some cases, I glue the solid layers on top first, and then that tells me exactly where I can put my glue down under my vellum. And then in other cases, if I know where the additional elements are going to get layered on top, then I can go directly to applying glue onto my glitter cardstock like I'm doing here. Because when you look at that first layer, there is some debossing that indicates to you where the additional pieces get layered on top. And so you do get some hints as to which individual floral elements go onto that particular section of that floral spray. So there's some, hints and clues there, and so you're not going to be like at a loss for how to layer these up. And my last little touch here is going to be to add the sentiment dies that do come in the large die of the month. It says "with love," and it's a really nice thin scripty font. We've seen this font before in previous, I want to say it's been in previous kits. I don't know off the top of my head which one exactly. But the E on love is really familiar, and then how they cross the T on with is very familiar as well. I recognize those aspects of this font. So really lovely. So I'm gonna have to look up which previous kit this goes with, and what new phrases or sentiments I can create now with these additional 2 words. So here's a final look at my shaped card. Really fun, this floral spray. Now on the leaves there is a section that you could weed that out, that little bit of detail in the center of the leaves. I kind of like leaving it in like that, so I didn't bother to actually weed that out. And so now we'll move on to my interactive card. And I don't often use the glimmer of the month for my interactive card, but it works out really well. Look at how beautiful this is. So you have just that little solid heart glimmer plate. You have this kind of a floral pattern glimmer. And then you have the scallop border glimmer design as well. Then in terms of dies, I kind of mentioned some of the dies already, but you do get the small heart. And I did check, but now I've forgotten. I think this heart might be the same size as the heart you get in the clear Stampin' Die of the Month. But I'm using the smaller of the 2 heart dies. So there's the solid, plain outline, and then there's the scalloped heart. And so I use the smaller of the 2 to cut an aperture in the center of the glimmered heart design, and we'll actually be making a shaker card. So from the glimmered scallop border heart design, I am going to die cut. You can't die cut both the inner and the outer edges at the same time because the dies just don't fit. This inner aperture heart die it could be a little bit hard or tricky to position, but you can't run that and the other one through at the same time. So you just have to take it in stages. And both of them do leave a little bit of a white border on the inside or the outside of your scallop border design. Glimmered design, that is. And so let's start making the shaker unit. So I just use a dotty tape runner on the back of my glimmered panel here. And I ran that dotty tape runner all the way around the heart design. And then I've just applied a bit of acetate. I like to use the thin acetate here. Don't use your expensive thick acetate if you buy it. You don't need anything super thick here. Then I've got my, this is another set of dies that you get with the Glimmer of the Month, which is really fantastic. So you have this nice wavy banner die, really great. And if you have single line sentiments, you can shape your stamp to follow, those curves too. But in the Glimmer of the Month, you get 2 glimmer plates that already have that curvature, and you get this debossing sentiment plate that matches the curve exactly. So really fantastic. Lots and lots of options in this Glimmer of the Month. So what I'm going to do is layer up this glimmered frame here, the scalloped glimmered frame. And then on my panel, which I did trim down to be a little bit smaller than US card size. So I think it's 1/8 of an inch smaller in both directions. And now I'm going to apply some foam. Trying to use up this foam on a roll here. I don't typically use foam on a roll because I find it a little bit more economical and easier, quite frankly, to buy foam on sheets and then just cut it down to strips as I need them. But I'm trying to use up what I have, and so the main thing here is you want to completely enclose your aperture. And you could very well just put foam on all 4 edges, but I like to put foam as close to the aperture as possible because then you don't have to fill it with as much fill, because when you are holding the card upright, all of your shaker fill is going to the bottom, wherever the bottom is. And so if you keep the bottom of the shaker well close to your aperture, that means you're not going to have to fill this with as much shaker bits, and that can save you a little something. So if I didn't have those 2 strips of foam at the bottom of my heart there, and instead just let it fall all the way to the bottom strip of foam on the card panel, if I didn't fill it with enough, you could very well see nothing when you hold the card upright. And unless I filled it with quite a bit of shaker fill. So I've just got these really cute pearl dots. They're from Cat Scrappiness. And I'll leave links to all the club kits in the description box if you are interested in checking any of those out. And I'll try to leave links to everything else I happen to use as well. But the dots are nice because they're kind of like micro pearls. They're super small, and they make a good sound when you shake them around, which I like. And then instead of backing it with another layer of acetate, which I often do, I just backed it with some handmade cotton papers from Craft Perfect or Tonic Studios. And it's just this really lovely kind of an embossed paper that's from handmade cotton. And so it's really, really got some lovely texture in there, and a really nice soft pink, which I like. Then I've got some a mix of different specialty cardstock here. So I've got some mirror card and some, I think it's a satin mirror card as well. So a little bit of a combination. One is a little bit glossier than the other. And I thought that it would be a good combination to for these little heart dies that you get. And I did put some dream drops in the center of some of these flowers, and then for the other ones you do get a little die to for the little dot in the center. So since I don't have a nice dark red, kind of a dark magenta like that matched well with my darker mirror card, I decided to use the dye version instead of trying to find instead of using a drop that wasn't a good fit. And so the last thing I'll do is just kind of arrange some of these small little flowers. They're really adorable, and they match the little floral design that's in the glimmer design as well. Plus, there are some leaves that you could add too, but I decided to leave those off because I'm trying to stick fairly monochromatic, and so I didn't want to add a different color with the leaves. And here is a final look at my interactive card. It's a shaker card with some micro beads as my shaker fill. So then we will move on to my pop-up card. So the pop-up card today features the APG die of the month, which is super adorable. You can create these small little envelopes, which I think are fantastic, but I'm actually going to use this on a card. And what I've already done is die cut this out of, it's actually 2 dies. So one will just cut your outline of the heart, and then you can combine that with the die that cuts out all of that gorgeous detail. So you have those 2 as separate dies, which is nice because I was able to cut them out of different colors and then mix and match those colors to create this look. And I've actually die cut these out of origami paper, really, really thin paper. The reason for that is because those are going to be part of my pop-up mechanism. And because it requires so many different layers, I mean, you're looking at 8 layers where I've doubled up the design with a solid backing plate, and then 1 additional layer that I'll add to the center. So, you know, if you did that even out of 60-pound cover weight cardstock, it would get pretty thick. So that's why I'm using origami paper. And I've used the embossing folder of the month to emboss a panel. And I'm using this die here, which has some notches on the ends, and that bar that goes across there, that's a score line. It's really cool that you have that separate, because I mean, you could put a score line anywhere you want, but they do notch that out so you know exactly where it goes, and it's kind of cool. So you can just have that be like a decorative score line that's just debossed, or you can actually fold there. And so I think it's nice that they've made this so customizable. And what I'm going to do is, using that same die, I am going to die cut out of some pattern paper where I've lined up the bottom of my pattern paper so that it is just above where the notches are for that score line. And then you have another die that can cut out that really intricate pattern. You can see it off there to the right. Beautiful, beautiful pattern. And you get a matching set of dies for the bottom of this as well. The rectangle has a solid, just plain straight outline, and the die that will cut out the pattern too. Then I just used my metal ruler and a box cutter, really, but you could use a craft knife, and I just cut a slit through that. And the reason is because I'm actually going to use that as a pocket for a gift card. So you can adapt this to kind of, because it looks like it can be just a small version of an envelope, and it will still fit onto your USA 2 size card. So onto this final heart that I cut out of, again, another sheet of origami paper. I did emboss this in white, but I didn't actually end up using this because origami paper is so thin, and when I applied heat to it, you can maybe already tell the paper started to yellow any longer, and it might have burned. So it lost quite a bit of color. So instead, what I did was I die cut another one, and then I just stamped in white pigment ink. It's not quite as bright of a white, but it's there, and it's better than having the yellowed paper. So now to apply this, my little gift card holder, you can tack down the entire top panel, but on the bottom where your gift card needs to sit, you just want to put glue along the two sides and the bottommost edge. That way there's actually space in there for you to slide your gift card. And with each of these layered hearts, I'm going to fold them in half and start to attach them to each other. And if you miss any areas, you can put a little bit of glue onto a scrap piece of cardstock, and then you can just kind of slide and tuck your cardstock in under any areas that didn't get fully tacked down. And I wanted to add a little bit something to the inside of the card. So the card base actually is something new that I just purchased from Hobby Lobby, actually. They sell sets of card bases with matching envelopes, and it was, I think, something like 40% off. And so I thought I would give it a try to see if it's a good weight, and it's a pretty decent weight. I think it's, it might not be quite 100-pound weight, but what's nice about it is that the set has a rainbow of different colors, and I like that it's actually white on the inside, because that is one of the things with using solid color cardstock as your card base. I would still want to add an additional white panel on the inside of the card so that there's a place to sign and write a message. Kind of depends on the color of the card base, I suppose, but if it's too dark, then it gets hard to actually write a message in there. But with these pre-bought card bases, it's color on one side and white on the inside. Although now I'm covering all of that white. So a little bit ironic, but I thought that using the larger stamp from the clear stamp of the month would be a really nice repeat pattern for some custom pattern paper. And I just stamped it out on the exact same super thin origami paper that I used to create these hearts. And what I've done is I have folded all of my hearts in half, and I'm just attaching them to each other by those halves so that I get this little fan here. And then I can glue this down to the inside of my card. And once I have one half down, I can just close my card and really make sure that that the card can still open. You want to make sure, if you have any wet adhesive, that you leave your hearts kind of fanned open so that everything has a good chance to dry and it doesn't accidentally stick to each other if that's not what you're intending. So, but otherwise it's a really fun, really easy kind of pop-up mechanism. You can make that from any shape die cut that is symmetric, where when you fold it in half, you can, they match up perfectly, and then you can just glue, those halves together and have that nice dimensional look. So it's really great for things like ornaments. You could use snowflakes, usually are symmetric. So it's just a little fun, interesting pop-up to have on the inside of your card. And so that finishes up my last card, my pop-up card. Here's a final recap of all of the cards that I made in this video. Here's my flat card featuring the clear Stampin' Die of the month and some of the dies from the Glimmer of the month. Here's the first of two layered cards featuring the large die of the month and a shaped card. And you can, if you want, cut another heart out and hide that little glue tab, which I might go back and do. Here's my second layered card, which features the small die of the month, just a different color palette for somebody who's not into all the pinks and purples that are very traditional of Valentine's Day. Here's my interactive shaker card featuring the Glimmer of the month, and really love the Glimmer of the Month. We're getting quite a lot of different items there, both in glimmer plates and in dies as well. Here's my pop-up card featuring the APG die of the month, the embossing folder of the month as well, and the clear stamp and die of the month on the inside. And that sentiment is also from the clear stamp and die of the month. Really fun kits this month. I had a lot of fun crafting with these, and I'm super excited to make some more Valentine's Day cards because I need more than the 5 I've made in this video. So you might see some more projects for me using this kit. Thank you so much for joining me today, and as always, I appreciate you. And until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye!